So more and more I'm finding that I'm able to edit certain images like portraits from start to finish completely in Lightroom without jumping back and forth into Photoshop. And to add to that,
I'm doing a lot more of my editing in Lightroom on the go, in cafes and restaurants,
on my iPad. And of course, what I do in Lightroom on my iPad, I can do exactly the same in Lightroom Desktop, and any retouching steps I do sync across all of my devices. Now, I've already done a video showing how you can calibrate the iPad, and I've added a link to that in the description. But in this video, I want to show you the steps I would go through in Lightroom to take an out-of-camera portrait to the final retouched image. And for the fun of it, I'll do it in Lightroom on my iPad. So let's go to Lightroom. Here's the portrait that I'm going to retouch, and the first thing I want to do is to sort out the profile. You can see over on the left-hand side it says Profile and Camera Neutral. And now if I click on Browse, there's a folder within here that says Camera Matching. And the one I'm going to go for is Portrait. The reason I'm going to go for that one is because compared to all the others, this one does seem to offer up more information in the shadow areas of the image, which I kind of like. It does give us a bit of an orange glow, or orange tint rather, to the picture, but that's going to be very, very quick and easy to fix. This Camera Matching folder won't always be within your Lightroom. This is only there when it recognizes the camera that your pictures have been taken with. Then it'll give you that camera matching folder. But now it's done that, we'll come out of the profiles. Let's sort out that orange cast now. I'll go to the color section. I'll grab the white balance tool. And just so happens that this portrait was taken on a gray canvas type of background. So I'm going to drag the target over onto the background, and you'll see straight away it removes that orange cast. And I'll click on the tick there to commit that in. The skin does have a bit of an orange glow to it still, but that's going to be very, very easy to fix. Next, I'll go to the light section. And this portrait here, it's kind of got that late 1940s, early 1950s kind of feel to it. And when you look at those kind of portraits and photographs from that time, there was a lot less contrast in them. Certainly the female portraits were a lot sort of softer and more gentle. And that's the look that I want to replicate with this. Very, very easy to do. I'll just reduce the contrast, and as I do that, it softens it down and also actually brings me more detail in those shadow areas, which is great. I'll increase the shadows. Play with the blacks as well. Looking good. And I might just bring up the exposure a touch as well. All right, that's looking good. Happy with that so far. Let's take that orange kind of glow off her face. Let's go to the color section. I'll go to the color mix. In here, we've already got the orange one selected, so I just need to simply just reduce the saturation on that a little bit, drag it over to the left. Actually, around about there is looking absolutely perfect. I'm really liking how this is looking now. All right, let's just go to the detail section, add a little bit of sharpening in there. By default, the amount of the sharpening is set to 40, but that's too much for my own liking. I'm going to bring that down for this female portrait here to around about 25. And then I'll restrict where the sharpening is going to be by using this masking slider. Now, I can either move it like that and just kind of guess, or as I'm moving this slider, if I just put a finger and press down on the screen, we then get this mask kind of view where the white areas are being sharpened and the black areas are not being sharpened. It gives me a visual representation of where that sharpening is going to be applied. So I want the sharpening to be around about, let's say, around about there is fine. And then I'll just let go. Wonderful. All done. So only a few clicks in and we can already see a huge difference in the picture. And to see actually a before and after on your iPad, all you need to do is just press your finger or your Apple Pencil down onto the image and hold it. You'll get before, and release, you get the after. So again, there's before and there's after. Now, there are a few things I want to do with regards to the eyes to give them a little bit more sparkle. But before I get to that, I just want to tidy up some of these loose fine hairs which are coming out to the side of the image, a little bit on her clothing, and there's some on the other side as well. So let me just zoom in. To do that, I'm going to go to the remove tool, and I am going to use the generative AI. I'm not going to just let this use like the heel or the clone kind of fix. I've found that with this particular image, certainly with hair, getting rid of these fine hairs, the generative AI version does a much better job. So that's what I'm going to use. I'll increase the size of it a touch like so. And then I'm just going to brush over the areas here that I want to get rid of. Now, I wouldn't imagine it's going to fix this first time round, but it'll certainly get me pretty close. So I'll brush over it. You see the red overlay. And then I shall just release, give it a few seconds, and it'll sort of try to remove it as good as in fact, that's done a really good job. Happy with that one straight away. Fantastic. All right, let's just reduce the size of it a touch. And I'll get rid of some of these on the clothing just here. This just to give you an idea of the kind of things that I would do. Give it a second or two to remove that. Superb. Pinch and zoom across to the other side. There's just some on this side here. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I've got these ones just up here. Let's get rid of these. Brushing over them. Like so. This works so well. Give it a second to remove that. And there's just one more I've noticed on her jacket collar. That's really good. Oh, in fact, no, it's just that one there. Let's get rid of that. Let it fix that. Then I'll remove this one just off her jacket. I don't want that brush to be quite so big, so I'll just reduce it a touch. There we go. And I'll just brush over that just there. Give it a second, and it'll remove it. And I think I noticed something on the tip of her nose. That looks like a little bit of maybe makeup, a smudge or whatever. It just looks like a little bit of red streak on there. So I'll use the same tool. Let's just brush over it like so. Not a huge task there for Lightroom to fix that. Give it a second or two, and it'll remove it. All right. So now that we've done that, I'll click on done. And the next thing that kind of shouts out to me, oh, there's just one there that's really annoying me. Let's go back into the remove tool. I'll just brush on that. There we go. Get rid of that one. That one was just, my eyes were drawn to it. Click done. All right. Now, I'm going to work on her eyes now, just to give them a little bit more pop. And this is one of the differences at the moment, at the time of recording this. One of the differences between the Lightroom mobile version and what we have on our desktop, be it Lightroom Desktop or Lightroom Classic. And that's in the masking section, because when I go to the masking section now on the iPad, we get this plus icon to add a mask. And you'll see in here, there is no reference to person, whereas on the desktop there is. Lightroom recognizes if there's a person or people within your image, you can click on them, and then it'll give you individual masks of certain parts of that person, be it their eyes, their nose, their mouth, their hair, their clothing, or whatever. We don't have that yet in Lightroom Mobile. So for me to work on the eyes, I need to do it kind of manual. I'm going to click on to create a brush mask there. Let's just go to the flow. I'm going to make sure the flow's way up and the feathering's good. And then we've got the size there. Actually, the size there will be all right, because what I'm going to do is pinch to zoom in. There we go. No, I will reduce it just a touch, just a little bit. Just bring it down a bit. Go. And I'm just going to brush over for this part of the eye here on the iris, and then we'll go to the other eye, pinch to zoom and move around over to the other eye just there. That's looking good. And then in the masking settings, let's have a look here. We'll go to the light. Let's bring up the exposure on the eyes, somewhere like that. I might add a little bit of contrast. But the magic happens when we go to the effects section just here. So I'm going to increase the use the dehaze. That looks so good just like that there straight away. But then definitely some clarity to really add some punch into those eyes. Like in that, and a little bit of texture. All right, let's have a look on this one here. Let's just come over. I'll rename this mask. I'll click on the ellipsis just here, and we'll go to rename. And let's just call this one eyes. There we go. Click OK. So now look, if I go to the eyes there, the eye mask, go to the ellipsis, and we've got this hide button. Keep an eye on the eyes here when I press hide. The difference there, look, that's before and after. Do it again. There's before and after. Big, big difference in the eyes there. Adds a little bit more punch to them. But to add a little bit more punch, what I do from time to time is either increase the look of the catch lights or actually add catch lights in. Again, really, really simple to do. I'll do that using another brush. So create a new mask, add a brush, and let's have a look at the size. Let's zoom in. Might reduce it just a touch, just take it down a fraction. And I'm just going to brush on this part here. Let's go to the other eye. And on this part just here, it's only subtle difference needs to be done here. I'll go to the light section and just increase that. It just adds a little bit more punch to that catch light. All right, and I'll rename this one here. Rename. And we'll call that one catch lights. All right, again, now going on looking at the eyes there and other parts of the face, Obviously, we have things like dodging and burning. There's in fact, oh, smudged it a little bit there. There's a few things that I want to do with this particular portrait here. Again, to enhance the eyes, but just a few parts of the face that need to add a little bit more shape into them. Maybe burn them down a little bit, because the light on the face is a little bit strong, in my opinion, in some parts, and it's losing a little bit of structure on the face. And I mean, there's just the side of the nose needs a little bit work on it just there. So let me just first of all go to the eyes. So again, I'm going to go back into the masking section, and I'm going to get a brush, and let's go to the, in fact, I'll keep the flow and everything up nice and high, to be honest with you. Size, I need to bring right down. So I'll pinch the zoom just a little bit, and I'm just going to turn on the overlay, and I'm going to brush around this part of the eye here. I'm going around the outside of the eye. Let's have a look at the other eye as well. All right, like so, like that. Now that I can see that, let's turn off that overlay. Oh, in fact, let's just go to the light section, and I'm going to go exposure, just bring it down a bit. Can you see how I can just like really darken down the outside of the iris there, just to add a little bit more punch to the eyes? Liking that. Let's just turn off that overlay. There you go. So doesn't need to be a lot, just a little bit of darkening down, again, makes those eyes stand out. So that one I'm liking. I'll rename that one again here, just so I know what all these masks are for. Rename. And we'll just put O/S outside eyes. There we go. And the last thing I think I'll do when it comes to masking is just add a little bit of darkening down on the nose, just to give it a little bit of shape. So we'll go into the masking. Again, use a brush. I'll increase the size of it. Drag that up. Feathering is definitely nice and high, so we've got a real amount of feather in there, which is good. Bring that up just a little bit more as well. And I'll turn on this overlay so you can see where I'm brushing. I'm just going to brush down this part just here. There we go. Get the light section and just darken that down just a fraction. Just to add a little bit of shape into that nose just there. Let's have a look. Look here. Go hide. That's before. And that's after. Yeah, happy with that. Doesn't need to be a lot. Rename. And I'll just call this one nice and simple. Let's go for nose. All right, done. And let's just double tap on the image to go back out there. So let's have a look here. Hold down on the image. So it's before and after. Before and after. Right, let's just, there's not that much more to do in here at the moment, but I think I'll do a little bit of a vignette on it. Now, we do have vignettes in the effects section, but I'm not going to go for that one. I will actually go back into the masking, and I'm going to click on plus, and we'll go for a radial gradient. I'll pinch to zoom out, so we get more of the outside area of the image. And I'll tap in the middle and drag outwards like so. I can reposition it by clicking on that little dot in the middle. And then I'm going to tap on the right-hand side here to invert it now, so that the outside areas of that mask are what's being affected as opposed to the inside. We'll go to the light section, and we can just darken down the outside just a touch like so. And I can maybe drag that in a little bit there. Yeah, like in that one. Open that up, rename it, tap on there, and we'll call this one a vignette. All right. Last little things to do. Let's just go to done and double tap to make it come up nice and high. I might now just simply go into the effects section. Let's have a little bit of grain to this, actually. Let's zoom in. Give it that 1940s old image look, just a little bit of grain. Let's bring that up. That's not way too high. Maybe around about there. Maybe around about there would be good. Alrighty. Okay, let's come out of that. Double tap. I think that is pretty much it. That's all that I want to do in this here. I do want to add, in fact, no, there's one extra little thing I'd like to do, and well, just to show you something that I like to do in these images. And again, this is just one of those little differences between the Lightroom mobile and what's on the desktop. And the little thing here is this one just here. It's to do with the lens blur. Now, lens blur generally looks for the depth of the image, and it'll kind of blur the foregrounds, and you can control it to some degree. with a portrait like this, where it's very much just a person in front of the camera and a background that's nice and close, there isn't that much you can do. Now, I can increase the blur amount, but it's not really giving that much control. So I'm going to leave that for this to sync over into Lightroom Desktop, and then I'll show you the kind of effect that I'd like to do to finish this off. But I'm hoping that what we can do with lens blur on the desktop comes into the mobile version pretty soon. All right, so what you just saw there was all the settings that I've applied in Lightroom on my iPad syncing over onto the desktop. So now we've got the exact same image here in my Lightroom desktop. You can see the settings are the same. If I go to the masking as well, you can see all those masks with all the names that I gave them in here. So everything is synced across. So the next thing I want to do, and really I could have done this in the iPad, but I've only just thought of it. So I'll just show you it now. I'm going to go back into the masking section, and there's a technique that I do on a lot of portraits called 2010. It's where you add selective amounts of contrast onto the facial area of a portrait, and it kind of gives a feeling that it's kind of coming forward. It especially works well when the images are printed. So on this female portrait here, I'm not going to use such high settings, but what I will do is kind of maybe just halve them. So to do it, I'm going to go to get a new mask. I'm going to choose a brush. Make sure that the feathering is way up, flows at 100% as well. And let's just zoom in actually. Let's zoom into 100%. And I'm just going to brush around the main part of the face. So we're going to go all around this main area just here. I can increase the size of it with my right square bracket key. So something like that. That's the first part. And with this one here, I'll come into let's go to the light section first of all. I'll add a bit of contrast. Let's go for around about 10. Then I'll come down to the effects section and I'll add 10 on the clarity, like so. That's all it needs to be. So 10 on contrast, 10 on clarity. I'll just use those two settings there. And this first one, let's just rename this one to 10. Then I'm going to add another mask. I'll use a brush. The exact same settings here with a feather and flow up at 100, but this time all I'm going to do is just brush over the eye and over this one as well, and then down the nose and onto the mouth, like so. So just the main features now of the face. And these ones I'll go into the light section. Contrast I'm going to take to maybe 5, something like that. Go into the effects section. Clarity will just be 5. So only subtle, but it does make a difference when you turn these on and off to be able to see what we've got. But let's just see here, if we just turn all those masks off. Keep it on the face just there for now. There's before and after, before and after. Obviously you're seeing the effects of the eye masks being turned off and on as well, but it really does, and you'll see it when you've got this printed especially, that it makes the face look as if it's coming forward, gives it much more life to the portrait. So that's the first thing there. The other thing I wanted to show you then, going back to what you can't do yet in the iPad, the Lightroom mobile version, when we come to using this lens blur. So let me just zoom out. I'll open up the lens blur and you can see already there's much more options available to us in the desktop and the classic version of Lightroom. I'll click to apply it. And the amount here is set to the default of 50. We can't really see anything that's being changed at the moment. But what I will do is I'll come down to here where it says visualize depth, and we've also got refinement. I'm going to first of all click on the blur section here. And this gives me a brush that I can selectively brush over areas that I want to be blurred. Now, if we go to this visualize depth checkbox here and turn it on, what you'll find is all of the person here is nice and bright, this bright yellow, and that means that they are completely in focus. The background there is not being affected whatsoever. Now, I want to have this lower portion here just to give it a bit of a creative effect. Let's just turn off that. I want to have this lower section here just a little bit blurry. So I've chosen the blur, and all I'm going to do is just brush over down this bottom part here, just to kind of draw your eyes more towards the top part here towards the face. So just a bit of a, I don't know, maybe even like a tilt shift effect, that kind of thing. And I can control the amount of blur before and after. So I can either decrease it now that I've applied it, I can increase it. Very, very flexible, non-destructive. But you can see now, look, if I zoom in 100%, in fact, let's take it to 50. something like that. And I'll hold down the spacebar, click and drag. So can you see how this bottom part here is slightly blurred? You don't have to do that. That's just, like I say, it's a bit of a creative effect, something that I like to do occasionally when it comes to these kind of pictures. So that's much more that you can do there, much more control with the lens blur within the desktop and classic versions. And I've got my fingers firmly crossed that the control we have here comes to the iPad version very soon, because that then is another reason for me not to have to come over into the desktop to finish off some particular kind of images. So there's that there. Now, that's pretty much all I want to do with it. I could, because of the composition here, when this has been photographed, it is quite tight up against the right-hand side here where she's got her handbag. I could now take it into Photoshop, use that generative expand to add more to that one side there and change the composition. But I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it all so that it's all done in Lightroom, because that's what I wanted to show you, just retouching the image from start to finish using pretty much 99.9% on the iPad, apart from that lens blur section there. So like I said, I'm doing a lot more retouching on the iPad when I'm out and about. I'm finding it really, really convenient. And I love the way that all those settings, whether it's on my iPad or I've actually done some stuff on my Lightroom on my phone, I love the way it syncs over into the desktop. So when I do come back in, I can finish it off if I want to, and maybe even look at doing a print. But I'm going to do a few more of these. I've got some travel planner pictures I want to show you how to retouch on the iPad or just in Lightroom, and also got a seascape that I thought it'd be good to show you as well from the recent storm Bert that we had here in the UK. But that's all for this video, so thanks for watching, keep well, and I'll catch you in the next one.